Hi everyone. We live in a simulated world. I don't mean this in a Matrix style, like we're being raised by robots for fuel. At least if that was the case, we could just fight the robots. Easy. The situation we're in is way more subtle. We're stuck in a simulation of our own making. Let's rewind a bit and come back to the birth of what has become the most important number in the world: GDP, gross domestic product, an indicator of economic activity invented in the United States during the Great Depression of the 1930s. Back then, the US government was desperate to get its economy back on tracks, but it had no way of checking whether it was or not. And so they asked Simon Kuznets. Kuznets' genius idea was to aggregate all activity into one single number, a kind of heart rate monitor, but for an economy. If the rate goes up, you know you've managed to reanimate your economy. Back then, it all felt very technical and practical. But a century later, we are starting to realize the disastrous consequences of the invention of GDP. Today, GDP is not only a number, but also a totem. Countries all around the world do their best to maximize the growth of their GDP. This seemingly abstract objective has become a non-negotiable guideline. Governments maximize their GDP, companies maximize their profits, and individuals maximize their income. The maximization of monetary indicators has become the most important code line in the software of modernity, a meta structure that subjugates all others. It is quite telling that news channel and TV always display numbers about the stock market. This is a reminder of what we think is the beating heart of our society. Even in time of ecosystem collapse and climate breakdown, governments worry about the impact of a potential species-threatening apocalypse on their economies. That reminds me of this cartoon where you can see a dinosaur watching the asteroid getting close to the Earth with a bubble text saying, "Oh shit, the economy." And of course, the economy is important. The economy as the complex assemblage of institutions that coordinate collective work to satisfy needs. That's important. But that's not the economy GDP measures. That's not the economy reflected in stock market indexes. Hence the idea of the simulation. We are living in a simulation where the reality of the economy is shaped by abstract rules defined by abstract indicators legitimated by abstract theories. What we don't often realize is that indicators are political. Any indicator shows certain things and hides others. The choice of what is rendered visible and what is left in the dark is unavoidably political. So behind every indicator, there are always interests. What is counted? Who is counting? And why are they counting? Today, the way we do national accounting ignores nature, downplays inequality, undervalues the work of women and everyone else that doesn't sell stuff on markets. It's not an indicator, it's a distribution scheme. Cut a tree and sell it, get points. Save a tree and let it be, get nothing. This economistic way of thinking legitimates nonsensical behavior like the cutting of millennial forest in the Amazon to grow feedstock so that the rich households of the world can eat beef every day, or the spurting of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, threatening the stability of the planet's climate just to allow a few percent of the world's richest to fly around for holidays. Some then will tell you that we cannot save nature because we've not managed to put a price on it. The only reason it's being squandered is because it is invisible to our GDP glasses. Maybe we just need more precise indicators. I don't think that's the problem. In fact, I think this waiting game for better models, for better indicators, for better data is deceiving. It only postpones decisions into the future. And this reminds me of a sci-fi short story by Isaac Asimov, where scientists keep asking complex questions to an increasingly sophisticated computer. And every time the computer is being asked a question, it answers, insufficient data for meaningful answer. Today, the biggest dangers for revolutionaries is to play the waiting game, waiting to gather enough data to show that what we're doing today is wrong. Instead, we should turn this precautionary principle around. The present is not working. We feel it. The accumulation of wealth in the global north is sucking the earth dry and handing the bill to the most vulnerable to bear. The burden of proof must shift. Show me the numbers, data, models, and theories to explain how high-income countries appropriating net quantities of money, labor, energy, materials, and soil from the global south is going to put an end to poverty. Show me how we can green growth, even though almost 1,000 academic articles have shown that this has never been achieved anywhere. Show me that wealth trickles down and that enriching the rich makes the poorest better off. Until you do, stop importing the life out of poorer countries. Stop wrecking the earth and stop piling up wealth in the pockets of the elite. The problem of GDP is not the way it is calculated, it is its very own existence. Our desire to aggregate a multiplicity of human and non-human interactions into a single number is just a remnant of that old Cartesian quirk of believing that we can and should control nature. But perhaps certain things should not be measured. Not everything that counts can be counted, and certain things that count stop counting once they're counted. Think of the idea of natural capital, that believe that nature is only one kind of capital among others, just stuff waiting for us to use. Calling it natural capital is already a mistake, and so is trying to measure it. So let's forget about natural capital and oppose the logic of capitalizing nature. Let's call it Mother Earth, like the South American Buen Vivir, and compare degrading natural capital that sounds like oopsie it's fine to harming Mother Earth that sounds like a tragedy. We need to oppose the logic of capital, and the logic of capital can only exist with its measuring apparatus. Without indicators, capitalism is naked. So let's go one step further. We should actively sabotage this mental infrastructure. Let's collectively organize a resistance against the measurement that motivates and legitimates the destruction of the planet. Let's refuse to measure the world with indicators that makes destroying life look like winning a Monopoly game. Decolonizing our imaginaries from this monetary monomania means defending the chaos of the social and ecological against the organizing crave of capitalism that wants to neatly count, name, and package every single thing just so that it can be sold. But imagine, how differently would our societies be if every news channel was at all times displaying the latest numbers about biodiversity loss, global warming, poverty, race, and inequality? So right now, my utopia is the world where we would have forgotten how to measure GDP.